Raila Amolo Odinga in Meru, and even there is even a plaque to that effect opposite the Kaga girls. And Mr. Speaker, he was somebody who had a good broom, and I hope that broom can be brought to Kenya for wiping out corruption, because that's what is needed in this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and poleni sana.
Member for Kilifi County.
Asante Mheshimiwa Speaker. Nachukua fursa hii kupeana pole zangu za familia yangu na hasa za wamama wa Kilifi kwa Jamhuri ya Tanzania kupoteza Rais John Pombe Magufuli. Wasifu wake tu wa upendo wake kwa kina mama tuliuona, ndio maana ameacha makamu wa rais Mama Samia. Tuombea subra wakati huu mgumu, na tumwombee Mama Samia aweze kuvaa viatu za Mheshimiwa Magufuli, aendeleze kazi iliyoachwa nyuma na marehemu John Pombe Magufuli. Asante.
Member for Baringo County.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Speaker. Mimi naye naungana na wenzangu nikitoa pole zangu kwa niaba yangu mwenyewe na watu wa Baringo County kwa Mheshimiwa Rais wa Tanzania na watu wake wote na jamii kwa jumla, nikikumbuka kwamba Baringo pia tuko na kijana amejiita Magufuli, na tunasema pole sana kwa wale. Rais Magufuli alikuwa mtu ambaye alikuwa na msimamo mkali, ambaye alijiamini na alikuwa akinyorosha mambo yake pasipo kuogopa mtu yeyote. Tunamkumbuka manake kila wakati akizungumza yeye atazami nyuma, kwamba tunamwombea roho yake ilazwe mahali pema peponi. Poleni sana watu wa Tanzania.
Member for Nandi County.
Honorable Speaker, hata nami nimesimama kupeana rambi zangu na watu wa Nandi kwa nchi ya Tanzania. Nataka kusema Magufuli alipigana na upisati. Alipigana na upisati na Mr. Speaker, siku ya miaka ya 2017 aliokoa bilioni 47 na Mr. Speaker, kuhusu Janet ni mama mnyenyekevu, ni mwalimu na hawachi shule bila kupata mwalimu mwingine akienda pale. Ni mama anapenda kazi kama bwana yake. Nasema pole sana. Na kwa mama Vice President anaitwa Suluhu Hassan, nasema Mungu akusaidie ushikilie nchi ya Tanzania vilivyo. Poleni sana.
Member for Kitui South.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Speaker kwa kunipatia fursa hii niweze kupeana pole zangu, na kwa niaba ya familia yangu na watu walionichagua wa Kitui South, ningependa kupeana rambirambi zangu kwa wananchi wa Muungano wa Tanzania kwa kupoteza rais wao ambao alifanya kazi nyingi sana na alitarajia kufanya kazi nyingi, lakini Mungu amemchukua. Ningependa kukumbuka ujasiri wake kwa kazi yake aliyokuwa anafanya na vile ambavyo alikuwa akikosoa watu ambao aliona ya kwamba walikuwa wanakosea wananchi wake. Alileta mabadiliko katika nchi ya Tanzania na kuchukua pesa ambazo aliona kama zilikuwa zinatumia kwa njia ambayo haikuwa ya anasa. Anazipeleka kwa mambo ya elimu, kilimo, kwa kina mama, watoto na mazingira. Na ningependa kusimama na rais wetu Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta kusema Mungu.
Honorable Yusuf Halima.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Speaker. Ningependa pia mimi kuchukua nafasi hii kuwaliwaza wakaaji wote wa Tanzania, familia ya marehemu John Pombe Magufuli na pia majirani wote wa East Africa. Ni huzuni sana. John Pombe Magufuli alikuwa mtu mcheshi sana. Mara kwa mara nilikuwa napenda kumtazama kwa sababu alikuwa anaongea mambo ya kufurahisha. Alikuwa mtu mwenye utu na wengi walimpenda, lakini kwa yote tujue ya kwamba kila mtu ataonja mauti. Kwa hivyo safiri salama John Pombe Magufuli, Mungu akuweke mahali pema peponi. Asante.
Member for South Mugirango.
Mheshimiwa Spika, pia mimi naungana na wenzangu kutuma rambirambi zangu kwa mwenda zake Mheshimiwa marehemu Pombe Magufuli, rais ambaye kila mmoja anamkumbuka kwa ujasiri na kujitolea kufanya kazi, kujitolea kufanya kazi kwa mbele ya wananchi, kutoa directives mbele ya kwa rallies mbele ya wananchi na kupinga ufisadi katika nchi yake. Lakini tunaposema hayo pia tunaomba Watanzania washikilie demokrasia na wahakikishe ya kwamba watapeana freedom ya watu kujiexpress inavyofaa kule Tanzania katika njia ya kisiasa, kwa sababu kidogo.
Member for Central Imenti.
Mheshimiwa Spika, nasimama kushikilia kama vile wenzangu wamesema kuhusu marehemu Rais Magufuli. Alikuwa rais mzuri wa nchi ya Tanzania, na tunaombea wananchi wa Tanzania wawe na wakati mwema wakati wanasindikisha rais wao. Sipokuwa kusema Rais Magufuli alikuwa rais mwenye msimamo mkali na ambaye alikuwa amependa watu wake sana, ambaye hakuwa akitaka wachezwe nao ama waingiliwe kwa chochote kile, kwa sababu ukiangalia vile Rais Magufuli alikuwa akiendesha maneno yake, alichoma kuku nyingi kutoka Kenya kwa sababu alikuwa akipenda nchi yake isingizwe ugonjwa wa kuku. Ng'ombe akachukua ng'ombe nyingi za Kenya kwa sababu hakuwa akitaka kichaka chao kilishwa ng'ombe sawa Kenya. Kwa hivyo popote pale ameenda, Mungu amrase pale pema peponi. Asanteni sana.
Member for Uriri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me also, on my behalf and on behalf of the great people of Uriri, pass my condolences to the late President of Tanzania. Mr. President, many people have said very good things, and I join my colleagues. And as Africans, of course, when someone is gone, we remember them for the good things that they have done. How we only wish that other leaders, including in this country, led by the Minister for Health, can lead this country by example by taking the jab, because this COVID is real, Mr. President. We cannot be, even as a House, continuing to allocate money, but the people charged with the responsibility do not want to lead from the front, because they are the ones causing stigma, which eventually will catch up with us and may lead to the decimation of all of us. So at this point, I want to wish the Vice President, who is now going to take over for Tanzania, and I wish them well. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kajiado North.
Asante. Nichukue nafasi hii kwa niaba ya watu wa Kajiado North na pia binafsi kusema pole kwa watu wa Tanzania kumpoteza rais wa Jamhuri ya Tanzania John Pombe Magufuli. Niseme alikuwa mtendakazi maalum ambaye aliwakosoa wafanyikazi wa serikali hadharani, kwa hivyo hakuogopa. Niseme ya kwamba tumempoteza kiongozi katika East Africa ambaye atakumbukwa. Lakini pia ni vizuri ukweli ueleweke alikufa nini, kwa sababu hakuamini kuna COVID. Na COVID sio ugonjwa ambayo ni wa aibu. Ni vizuri wa Tanzania waelezwe na pia wa Kenya, na sisi ambao tunaishi pale karibu na Kajiado tunajua kuna watu wengi wa Tanzania walitoka Tanzania wakiwa na ugonjwa wa COVID. Ni vizuri tujue ukweli. Asante, na awekwe pahali pema poponi, pahali wema wapo.
Member for Buri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of people of Buri, I'd like to send our condolences to the family and the people of the Republic of Tanzania through the Vice President, Madam Hassan Tulu. The late President, rose from a very humble family. His father was a farmer, but he rose with that humbleness, and he became a wonderful president who all of us today are emulating. May God rest his soul in eternal peace.
Member for Runyenjes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. And I want to, on behalf of my family and the people of Runyenjes constituency, to condole with the people of Tanzania. President John Pombe Magufuli was a man who loved his job very much. He was a man who loved his people, and he was a man who loved the church. And I can imagine that it is a great loss for the people of Tanzania, and we pray that God will be with them as they move on with their lives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kiharu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I rise also to convey my sincere condolences on my own behalf and Kiharu to the people of Tanzania following the loss of their president, Mheshimiwa John Pombe Joseph Magufuli.
Hakika mwendo amemaliza Mheshimiwa Magufuli, na sote njia ni moja. Pumzika kwa amani. Hakika Mungu uchukua wasuri. Safiri salama Mheshimiwa Magufuli. Asanteni.
On the members. Members, if you can take your seats, including member for KSS. Member for Baringo, take your seat, please. Nominee 001, take your seat. Honour members, we had given ourselves 1 hour to pay these tributes. We've gone slightly over 1 hour. Member for Wajir, please, just learn to listen.
In respect of the votes as contained in the schedule. And 4, resolves that the attached schedule forms the basis for the introduction of the first Supplementary Appropriations Act 2020-2021. Honorable Speaker, as I make this submission, I want to assure members of Parliament that in this document that hopefully that you are going to pass today, it contains the 10 billion shillings that were deducted in the first supplementary for the CDF, but most importantly, an addition 13.6 billion shillings being arrears for the financial year 2019-2020, which of course was not factored before. Honorable Speaker, in accordance with Article 223 of the Constitution, Section Public Finance Management Act 2012, and regulation, the PFM Regulations 40 and Standing Order 243, I am honored to present to this House, on behalf of the members of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, the committee's report on the first supplementary budget for the financial year 2020-2021. Honorable Speaker, the supplementary estimates, number 1 of the financial year 2020-21, were tabled on the 9th of February 2021 and was committed to the Budget and Appropriations Committee as well as the departmental committees for review in line with their respective mandate. After reviewing the budgets of the various ministries, departments and agencies within their purview, the departmental committees are required to submit their recommendations to the Budget and Appropriations Committee for consideration and inclusion in this report. And I want to report to this House that that one happened, Mr. Speaker, and the report that I have tabled here includes all the deliberations that we had with the various chairs of the departmental committees, and most of the issues that were raised, Honorable Speaker, I want to say most of them have been captured. Honorable Speaker, in reviewing the supplementary estimate for 2020-2021, the committee held more than 5 sittings, including 2 meetings with the National Treasury, where extensive deliberations were held. The committee also held discussions with the Parliamentary Service Commission and the Office of the Auditor General and received submissions from departmental committees. The outcome of these deliberations has informed the various recommendations which are contained in this report. If approved by this House, these recommendations will form the basis for the passage of the Supplementary Appropriations Bill for the financial year 2020-2021. Honorable Speaker, I also want to add that okay, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to hasten and say, Honorable Speaker, when we received the first supplementary, and we had engagements with the departmental committees. We were also able to engage with Treasury. And some of the issues that were raised, which were pertinent, issues to do with salaries, the cuts that were done, Treasury was able to reverse in the addendum. So we got an addendum, Mr. Speaker, which of course, and I want to report to this House, that in the first supplementary, Treasury had reduced CDF by 10 billion. And we told them that is a no-go zone, and I'm happy to report to this House that in the addendum, they reversed that, so the 10 billion shillings are intact. Honorable Speaker, I just want to put a few highlights in the proposed changes under the first supplementary. Honorable Speaker, the supplementary budget is proposing an additional 20 billion shillings in recurrent expenditure and 59.81 billion in development expenditure. Of course, Mr. Speaker and members, you note that it's also different from orders in the order paper, but this is what they had proposed. But after negotiations and deliberations, we arrived at a higher figure. Honorable Speaker, with regard to the recurrent budget, the most significant increase is under the State Department for Crop Development and Agricultural Research, that is at 12.43 billion shillings. That was basically to pay for the pending bills for the maize subsidy. Also, the Teacher Service Commission, that is TSC, 7.99 to hire more teachers and also for personal emolument. The Ministry of Defense at 6 billion, NIS at 6.5 billion. On the other hand, Mr. Speaker, major cuts under the National Treasury was under the National Treasury of 4.6 billion. The State Department of Tourism, that is 2.58, which is basically A in A. The State Department of Wildlife, the same case is A in A at 2.6. The State Department of Public Service, 2 billion. And also as attached, Mr. Speaker, for what I have also tabled. Mr. Speaker, with regard to development budget, there was major increase to the railway transport or railway programs at a cost of 33 billion shillings. Mr. Speaker and members will note that this is to go to the meter gauge railway and also to the SGR so that we can have a seamless flow of goods and services from Mombasa to our neighboring countries. And you have seen it happening all over the country, going to Kisumu, going to Mombasa, going to Nakuru and other areas. Honorable Speaker, the Ministry of Health also got an additional 10.9 billion shillings. And basically, is in regard to UHC and also the COVID-related expenses. There was also the urban development at 7.7. But on the other hand, Mr. Speaker, there are major reductions under the Ministry of Health, that is the health policy standards and regulations. But most importantly, the State Department of Sports, there was a reduction of 10.8 billion shillings. And basically, the explanation given was this was factored as A in A, but unfortunately it was not forthcoming because of the current situation. Honorable Speaker, the committee notes with concern that the productive sector, notably trade and industry, continues to be allocated minimum resources in terms of percentage of ministerial allocations. Indeed, it is noted that this sector, this important sector, that is central to the economic recovery from the devastating effects of COVID-19, accounts for about 0.4% of the total ministerial allocation. Given that the trading has commenced under Africa Free Trade Area Agreement, which creates the largest free trade area in Africa, and the ratification, of course, of the Economic Partnership Agreement between Kenya and UK, enough resources should be allocated to this sector to enable the country to fully exploit the available opportunities and reap the benefits of accounts of these milestone trade agreements. Honorable Speaker, on the financing aspect, given that the expected revenue is underperforming, the increase in the fiscal deficit will primarily be funded by borrowing. The Kenya shilling 125 billion additional deficit will be financed by 146 billion shillings net domestic borrowing and 80 billion shillings net foreign financing. The bigger share of the additional foreign financing is expected to be raised through the issuance of sovereign bond. This is relatively, of course, more expensive than the concessional debts that we get. The committee observed that borrowing commercially to finance increased expenditure may contribute to interest payment on debt crowding out development expenditure in the medium term. Mr. Speaker, of also importance is also to note that the government has also been in talk and consultation with the Bretton Woods institutions. And we are happy that at least we are also getting financing from these respectable institutions. Honorable Speaker, the National Treasury seems also to have abandoned the fiscal consolidation policy that underpins the 2020-2021 MTEF. The projected deficit, inclusive of the grant as a share of the GDP for the financial year 2021, has been revised upwards from 7.5 to 8.7. Such a large deficit, Mr. Speaker, implies that Kenya will have a limited fiscal response to any unexpected economic shocks. Honorable Speaker, we got many submissions from committees, and I want to assure this House that all the recommendations, the proposals from the departmental committees are well captured in the document that I have already laid on this table, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I want to go straight to the observations of the committees. Honorable Speaker, one of the major observations is that there was failure to adhere to some legal provisions. The committee observed that there are some gaps in the format, structure, and content of the supplementary budget contrary to the legal provision. Notably, some new items have been introduced in the supplementary budget contrary to Section 48 of the PFM Act or Regulations 2015. Furthermore, analysis of the fiscal impact of the proposed changes have not been provided for in law. Honorable Speaker, for sure, there is the expansion of the fiscal deficit. Honorable Speaker, revenue is expected to significantly underperform, and it has been underperforming in the current financial year. As a result, despite some increases in spending through this supplementary budget, it is expected that there may be further expenditure cuts in course of the year in order to avoid extensive expanding the deficit. Mr. Speaker, it is almost certain that we will have a second supplementary that will be coming hot on the heel after we do this first supplementary. Honorable Speaker, the National Treasury also adjusted substantially budgetary provisions from for state-owned enterprises. Left as it is, or as it was, the adjustment could have halted the operations of these institutions. But I'm happy, Mr. Speaker, through the addendum, most of these issues were actually addressed and they were reversed. Mr. Speaker, a big issue on pending bills. Pending bills are literally everywhere in all ministries. And this is a concern that was raised by members of parliament and members of the committee, and we have clearly said that Treasury should have a proper roadmap on how to address the pending bills, because pending bills are piling up every other day. And it is unfortunate because there are people now, the traders don't feel very safe when they are also trading with ministries. So ministries should also be accountable on that. Honorable Speaker, there are also many court awards given against the different ministries, and they are piling up every other day. There should be a way of addressing this. Finally, Mr. Speaker, there is failure to prioritize completion of projects. Mr. Speaker, the committee notes that there are projects which have become a permanent feature in the budget, such as the Kenya Industrial Research and Development Institute, KIRDI, in South B, the Mitihani House, which is older than some of the members here because it is over 40 years old. Mr. Speaker, the Ronald Gara Utalii College, among other institutions, not to mention our own building around here. Mr. Speaker, the National Treasury must provide funds and complete these projects within the next 6 months. So it means the next supplementary and also the next financial year. In addition, the specialized project management unit based at the National Treasury, to the view of members of the committee, should be disbanded because they are not doing their work. Honorable Speaker, we also noticed cuts in counterpart funding. Mr. Speaker, this committee is concerned that the expenditure cuts have also adversely affected counterpart funding, contrary to the guidelines of the preparations of supplementary estimates issued to MDAs. Mr. Speaker, we also noticed that there was inadequate consultation during the supplementary budget. Mr. Speaker, given these emerging issues and other observations raised by the departmental committees, the committee notes with concern that there appears to have very minimal consultations between the National Treasury and the ministries. Departments and agencies during the supplementary process came to our committee and they were given contradicting information from what the National Treasury was also giving us. So going forward, we seek that the National Treasury to have adequate consultation with the MDAs. Honorable Speaker, on the policies recommendation, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, Honorable Speaker, having considered the above matters, the committee has made the following policy recommendations. 1, that within the next 6 months, the National Treasury should provide funds and a clear roadmap for the completion of all stalled projects and present this information to National Assembly. 2, that during the finalization of the budget estimates of 2021-2022, the National Treasury should set aside funds for the settlement of all pending bills and court awards. Mr. Speaker, we are informed that pending bills have gone in excess of 100 billion shillings. The court awards are also in excess of 100 billion shillings. Mr. Speaker, that's a disaster in waiting. Honorable Speaker, number 3, that to avert incomplete projects, the National Treasury should request the Auditor General to carry out an audit on ongoing projects that have been affected by the budget cuts by April 2021, with a view of funding these projects in the financial year 2021-2022, or if there is a supplementary 2 coming, it should also be factored. 4, that upon approval of the supplementary budget 1, the MDAs and the National Treasury should revise their output and performance target to realign with the increase or decrease in budgetary allocation for various programs. 5, that the new projects in the supplementary budget 1 for the financial year 2020-2021 should be deferred to the financial year 2022-2023. And finally, that the next supplementary budget, the National Treasury should ensure adequate consultation with the MDAs before supplementary changes are effected on the budget. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the financial recommendation. Having considered the above matters, the committee recommends that this House resolves to approve 1, the supplementary estimate number 1 of financial year 2020-2021 is finalized as per the attached schedule 1 and 2. And then 2, that the attached schedule 1 formed the basis of the enactment of the first Supplementary Appropriations Act 2020-2021. Honorable Speaker, I beg to submit, and as I call upon my good friend, the whip, Majority Whip, to second, just to clarify and reinstate to members that the CDF funds to second. Yeah, the CDF funds have been factored and they are in this. And I call upon Honorable Wangwe to second.
Honorable Wangwe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to second this supplementary estimate 1. And Honorable Speaker, on the onset, allow me to inform the House that the Supplementary Estimate 1 is brought before this House, Honorable Speaker, on the basis of reduction in revenue occasioned by the issues around COVID-19, all of which we know, the circumstances that, Honorable Speaker, we cannot rule out. Honorable Speaker, based on the issues that we have around, there is the issue that reflects in the supplementary one to do with salary cuts. Most of the public servants, Honorable Speaker, do expect that there will be salary cuts, Honorable Speaker. And indeed, in the first supplementary, which came before this House, before the addendum, the reflection of those salary cuts was there, but that has since been corrected. I wish to request my colleagues that when you are reading the supplementary document we have on the floor, please also refer to the addendum that came after the first one was